Okay, welcome back. We're going to talk about the next topic being fair lending. This is a mandatory training, just like customer information security and AML/BSA. Fair lending is one of the ones that big regulators are looking for on a regular basis. They're like, did you talk about fair lending? Fair lending goes into a lot of things that in the back of your mind you might be going, I'm pretty sure it's race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, marital status, disability or not, religion.
Yeah.
And you're probably thinking like, yeah, I got it. Okay, you got it, but cheat codes, right? It's not just the black and white boring stuff you read in the law. We have to think about the application of it and how we could even incidentally, accidentally, and unintentionally, violate the rule.
Right.
So let's talk about that.
So, let's step back a little bit. I don't want to always go back too much into law because we're on cheat codes here.
Yeah.
But let's talk about fair lending. We get there's basically conceptually three ways of discrimination. You have the overt discrimination, which is basically, sorry, we don't lend to people like you. By the way, it's a big problem. Yeah. So if that happens, there should be no latitude on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely no latitude.
See you later. You don't have a job anymore.
Correct. Exactly. Right. But there's other ways to impact fair lending as well. One of them is called disparate impact. Now, disparate impact is a concept whereby you are putting a policy in place that is neutral on its face, but has a disproportionate effect on minorities, one way or the other.
Do you know which one? You know which one of those is? It's in the military. I'm 6'2". I couldn't have actually served in most subs.
Well, yeah, and you know why? But
yeah.
And there is, like I said, it has nothing to do.
They
with
made a regulation
else.
on the size of those portholes, and you can't get through, or not portholes, manholes.
Right, but there's a reason for that. See, so even with disparate impact, you could have a policy in place that's going to have maybe a disproportionate effect on minorities.
Oh yeah.
And it still might be acceptable for one reason or another. I'll give you a good example. Right, disparate impact. It's based on a policy you've made. Now you got to think about who makes the policy. That's often more the leaders of the company, the managers of the company.
Okay.
So I think we want to focus on that. But minimum loan amount, I think, is a good example. I always use as a good example of what disparate impact is.
Okay.
And if you think, look, I'm going to do minimum loan amount of $300,000 and that's it, and we're not doing anything below that, well, if you look at it demographically, who are you adversely affecting, and is it a disproportionate amount of people that you're affecting? And yes, it's very possible minorities have lower loan amounts than the non-minorities as an average.
Statistically, yeah.
Correct. So while the policy is we're just doing loan amounts, we're not doing zip codes, we're not doing race, we're not doing anything else.
No redlining.
Correct.
No,
we're not doing redlining, but
yeah.
the effect that you had with that policy could be problematic. So just so you know, with minimum loan amounts, what I've had my clients do is find out a point where they can't make loan amounts without losing money.
Right.
It's really the math you got to do behind.
Because they're not the rule is not against the capitalism of a business making money.
Correct.
It's so to your point, I want to clarify that because I don't want to skip over that too fast. One of the safest ways to go about it is a calculation. Say, look, it costs us X amount of dollars to make a loan happen. If we make a loan under this amount of money with our current profit margin, we just won't make any money. We'll actually literally go negative trying to get those loans done. Therefore, we have an economic reason to cut that off right there.
Correct. So the question really is, when you have a policy that might have such an impact, the follow-up question is, well, could you adjust the policy that opens up to more of the minorities in that context or have less impact and not affect your objective?
Okay.
So that's what they're looking for, is can you reduce the impact and still be okay?
Yeah.
So in the example of your submarine, right, they had to build it a certain way and for certain reasons. So while you can say, listen, that's not fair, the answer is, well, we kind of had to make subs kind of safe. And, I guess your side wasn't going to be safe. I guess. So,
exactly.
So I get that. But anyway, so that's disparate impact. And I focus primarily that when it comes to leaders and managers of the company, because that's often a policy-driven issue. I'm not suggesting we shouldn't know about it anywhere else in the company, but you will see that that's a policy-driven issue. So disparate impact, focused managers, leaders, those who make policy of the company. Think about the impact you're having when you make these policies and maybe who has impact. And then secondarily, if you think maybe there is, then is there a better way to do it and not have that impact, or at least have a lesser impact? So that's what you deal with disparate impact.
Solid.
The other one, the third one, we talked about overt, we talked about disparate impact. Now we talk about disparate treatment. And so it's more of a subtlety maybe of overt discrimination. It's how you treat somebody differently because of the position that they're in or who they are. And what happens there is, assume that you're a loan officer and you got 20, 30 borrowers, probably 50 at a time, who knows. And you're getting a phone call that comes in, you recognize the number, it's the borrower that you know. He went to the same college you did, he likes the same football team that you did, he has refinanced his loan many, many times.
Picking up that
he
phone.
knows it. It's
super easy answer.
It's a pretty easy call. It's like, I'm going to take it, let's see it, the game was yesterday anyway, let's see what he says about it, whatever, right? So you have this desire to take that call. Okay, so, and you do. Then you get a call, it's another one of your borrowers, and it's a first-time home buyer. Let's say they're an immigrant. They come, so they don't really understand the process as much. There might be somewhat of a language barrier, something to that effect that might be there. When you respond to like, oh, it's them, I'm not going to take the call, I'm going to go to lunch. Now, I'm not saying that's legally actionable, fair lending, issue per se, but it starts to make you think about how do I treat people because of where they're coming from or who they are and what characteristics they have. And especially if it's minority based, that could be an issue. Be an issue at any time, but certainly from a fair lending perspective. So you want to think about that. The reason why I say that is because we can catch ourselves getting involved in a disparate treatment situation without even really knowing about it and how we treated things. And it's human nature. I'm sure maybe as a young loan officer I've done the same thing. I'm not proud of if that were the case. I'm just saying these are the types of things we have to think about. But with disparate treatment, it's about how we actually treat people differently. We can talk about it in the context of if you want to do a pricing exception, right?
Okay.
And it's like, the they're coming from another country, they come in, they don't know to ask for, are we treating people different because of that? Or more importantly, is that the result? Maybe it wasn't the intent, it's just maybe the treatment. Again, I'm not saying that particular fact pattern is per se a fair lending violation. It could be. What I'm saying is how easily, again, cheat codes, right, is how easily we can slip into this. And more importantly, how easy it is now to identify what we're talking about with disparate treatment. So now that you know, think about that. It's really what I'm asking. When you start dealing with borrowers, consider where you're coming from and how you're treating each individual borrower better or worse. If not, they should all be treated pretty much the same.
There's a statement I've heard a few times, is that ask why 5 times. If you're trying to figure out why you do something, ask why 5 times. Why did I not answer the phone call? Well, because they talk forever. I can't get them off the phone. Okay, because they ask the same questions over and over. All right, well, why are they asking the same questions over and over? Okay, well, why do they come? Like, when you dig down and deeper. So one of the best takeaways in a fair lending training for you, and one of the cheat codes, is where there's smoke, there's fire kind of idea. You may not see the flame. You may be like, there's nothing wrong here, but gosh, it smells like smoke right here. Like, I don't understand what's wrong. Ask why and see if you can uncover what this is coming from. Might be, I've got a couple of good friends that when they call, I have to look at my calendar real quick and understand what's coming up, because it is not a 5-minute phone call ever, right? It's a long phone call.
And explains why I don't answer my calls.
Sorry, Ray, I'll call you back. But you have to understand, like, there are, and that's fine. That is actually okay. But when it comes to borrowers, when you ask yourself the why and how you're treating them and what you're doing, now, what this does give us is an amazing opportunity to create really some strong foundations in fair lending. If you find yourself really hesitant on these first-time home buyers, let's just pick on that category, right? Because that could be anybody. And it's a fair treatment issue. Man, first-time home buyer, I'm just not taking that phone call at 4 o'clock at night, in the afternoon, because I won't get home till 7. And, well, okay, if that's the case, what can you do proactively to say, hey, first-time home buyers, here's an entire video montage of me explaining everything you need to know about this, and you can come back to it. And you give that to everybody. Yeah. That's a pre-way, that's a cheat code to kind of get yourself ahead of the game. So when they actually are coming into you, you're both providing value and content and structure and a place, a receptacle of information that they can go back to over and over again if they forgot something you said. I mean, I think that was a cheat code for fair lending.
I agree. I mean, look, we have overt discrimination, right? And that's the things you say and do are obviously something that is based in how you want to treat minorities. And like I said, no one should be able to should accept that. And it shouldn't be okay. The other one is disparate impact we talked about. And that's really where management is well. So again, what I'm trying to talk about is how this all applies to people. And so in management, where you're making policy, think about the impact you have. I use the example of minimum loan amounts. There are probably 10 or 15 other examples I can use, but you get the you get the idea, right?
Yep.
So at least be thoughtful about that in the process. And then finally, how you treat borrowers and why are you giving, like you said, the whys, right? Why am I giving this guy fighting for this exception and not for that person? The point is on cheat codes is how we behave with compliance just to minimize our risk and not worry about the noise of is it legal, not legal, what's the state of the case, who cares? I'm an attorney in the space too, and I'm telling you, as from an operational perspective, overt, impact, treatment. That's what we talk about. Know your role in that and then think about it, and if there's any adjustments you got to make the adjustments.
Well said. All right, on to the next topic.